where to begin? I guess where to begin, I could talk about the Stanley Cup, Memorial Day baseball, that sort of thing. But I guess the thing to begin with is Bill Buckner. Hi everybody, I'm Marky Bilson, your voice of choice for a new generation of Tri-City sports fans. Name of the program, Tri-City Sports Now. We own the Tri-Cities on 1420 WEMB Sports. In about a half hour about all things Vols. Hey, I of course am of the belief that the more, and I think it's proven, the more you expand the playoffs, the worse it does for your sport in the long run. Really waters down the regular season, and you run the risk of having bogus champions. You know, I mean, look, Boston Bruins are a better team this year, really, than the Tampa Bay Lightning. And if you don't believe so, then why did we have the regular season? Why were I like the name the Tar Heels? I got to be honest with you. Like, you stepped in something. It's nothing that it brings to mind, you know, it's not an image I like in my mind and all this. But Buckner passed away at the age of 69. He is remembered as the first baseman who Mookie Wilson's easy ground ball went through the legs of. He completed stunning 2-out, 8-5 tally, did the 68 years for a title. I remember there was a quote of a 96-year-old Red Sox fan, and he said, wanted, and I've asked God for before I die, I'm going to get my prayer answered. And yeah. That's how heartbreaking it can be, sports sometimes. Although I got some really horrific tragedy stories here going on in sports. I mean, you know. And yes, a man dying of dementia, Alzheimer's disease, yes, that is horrific. Only 69 years old. Buckner shouldn't be remembered for that. I'd like to believe, though, that when his role in the batting order, I mean, that's pretty big, you know? He drove in 100 runs in 85 as well as 86, actually more than 100 runs. Bill Buckner never struck out 40 times in a season. His career high was 39. Very much a throwback player. Not a high on-base average, if you want to know. He was a guy, he was a bad ball hitter. You know, you didn't get much past him. But he won a batting title, and he got on base with, you know, singles and things of that nature. It's kind of the baseball that I like. I like want to get on him for the ground ball that went through his legs, you know, and we've seen the whole thing. You know, the glove was too old, and he actually had the glove down in the right place, and it was just one of those things. 1984, the Chicago Cubs win the division. It's the first time they make the playoffs in 39 years. It's best of 5 then. They win 2 pretty easy games at Wrigley Field, and it looks like the Cubs are going to go to the World Series in 1984 against the Detroit Tigers, which would have been a tremendous World Series. I mean, that would have been great. And Wrigley Field, still no lights in 84. I mean, that would have been... In fact, they actually said, well, we got to flip the World Series so that the Tigers will have the home field advantage. It was the National League. Cubs can't play night games. Anyway, like I said, 84, though, Cubs trade Buckner to the Red Sox for Dennis Eckersley. You know how they lose in the playoffs? Deciding game was best of 5 back then. A ground ball goes through the legs of first baseman Leon Durham. I mean, think about that. Maybe if the Cubs don't trade away Buckner, well, I mean, it's a difficult thing to say because Eckersley was a vital member of their staff, but maybe they've got the guy that fields the ball. Of course, I looked at the records, but yeah, the ball going through the legs of Leon to the Padres and Ed Whitson winning the pennant in 84. The man who replaced Bill Buckner at first, Leon Durham, made the error. But it's funny, examination, you'll inspect, really, they're not goats at all, and I don't think Bill Buckner was a goat. There's an old adage, okay? Don't blame Jackie Bradley Jr. for striking out against Aroldis Chapman. Blame the manager for sending Bradley Chapman. I mean, you know, he's not going to get a hit here. Lefty, okay, he's hitting 173, put up the right-handed pitch line, come on. Same thing here. Blame John McNamara. He was the Red Sox manager back then. He fell asleep at the wheel, or some say he wanted be on the field when the Red Sox clinched was supposedly the big whoop. Who cared? Usually, as he had in the World Series before, he used Dave Stapleton at first base, close out ninth inning defensive replacement, maybe put him on in the eighth, that sort of thing. Instead, he kept Buckner on. You know what? When a manager or a head coach puts his team in a position to fail, he's the one that should receive the blame, not the innocent pawn. Now, he shows a little bit, about how fan votes go and what the Cubs were drawing in those days and so on and so forth. But still, he was better than just a one-time All-Star. Like I said, he was a batting champ. Twice led the National League in doubles. Today, I'm thinking Neil O'Donnell, he threw a fatal interception in Super Bowl 30 that many feel cost the Steelers the Super Bowl. The least likeliest quarterback in NFL history to throw an interception. So it happened here. And upon further review, Steelers are coming back. They were only down 20-17 in the fourth quarter. They had the ball approximately, getting to midfield. Looked like they were about ready to either tie the game up or maybe even with 4 minutes left they could run enough of the clock out on a winning touchdown drive and win the Super Bowl, beat the Cowboys. But what happened was in the previous possession, Ernie Mills, who was having a real good game, tore up his knee. So the Steelers moved Andre Hastings into the slot position that Mills had been excelling at. That was, that Mills comes a route. Hastings supposed to turn outside. Instead, says in his normal position, he turns inside. O'Donnell, where the play was going. Well, here's Larry Brown. O'Donnell gets all the blame he shouldn't have. It's not his fault. Big sports goat except for one thing. That was his last game with the Steelers. He signed as a free agent with the Jets. Lee Steinberg, his agent, really pushed him to it. And admittedly, O'Donnell's the guy who has to sign off on it. I mean, you got to, ultimately, he's the guy right there. But there was the famous story of, well, if you've got to play, why not play on the biggest stage? I'm not sure the New York Jets are a bigger stage than the Pittsburgh Steelers, to be brutally honest with you. I'm not sure it works quite that way in football. But when that happened, then all the Steelers, there's no hope of forgiveness at that point. O'Donnell was a bum. He was even called that by Al Bundy on a episode of Married with Children. O'Donnell became football's Bill Buckner, but it doesn't change the fact that, like Buckner, really wasn't his fault. O'Donnell threw the ball to the right place. Andre Hastings turned the wrong way. It's his fault. Craig Morton, Vince Ferragamo, even Peyton Manning and Russell Wilson all threw interceptions in the fourth quarter of the Super Bowl that effectively lost. All of them combined haven't received the wrath that Neil O'Donnell has. And like Buck. Now, I started thinking about that. Okay, so that's football's good, baseball's good. And, it isn't deserving. Say, is there a GOAT? I started thinking, you know what? There are, but East Tennessee fans are so forgiving, so uncritical, that they've kind of been able to get away with it. Case in point, Eric Ainge. 2 fourth-quarter interceptions, 2007 Southeastern Conference Championship game. First to Jonathan Zenon. That gave Louisiana State their winning touchdown. It was a pick six. And then 2:42 left in the ball game. LSU 7-yard line. Derry Bunch. That kills the Vols' final drive. Hey, Ainge choked under pressure. But Tennessee fans don't speak of the guys. How about this? Tim Smith used to drive me nuts at ETSU playing basketball. It's the 2003 NCAA tournament. Bucks are down 75-73, 11 seconds left. Wake Forest, the opponent. Smith is the Bucks point guard. Left. He never looks to his teammates. He tries to take it coast to coast. Wake Forest is able to never iron. Now, I can blame Ed DeChillis in his last game at ETSU for not drawing up a play and instead allowing Smith to improvise. I can do that. But the following year, ETSU was back in the NCAA tournament, this time under Murray Bartow. 13 seconds left. ETSU is down by 3 to Cincinnati. What do? You try to set up a play for a 3 now, don't you? Instead, Smith tries to drive the lane. You need 3 points. He's trying to score 2. You had to realize that Tim Smith had seen games in the history of ETSU. Very few people hold Smith responsible for this. In fact, when ETSU went to the Atlantic Sun Conference, he was quoted by Kelly Hodge, Johnson City Press, approving the move because he'd miss more class time. How's that? The Buccaneers haven't won an NCAA tournament game since. Bottom of the conference standings when they officially became Tim Smith's team, because the Kiowa dude, Gerald Fields, and Ben Rhoda all graduated in 2004. But again, what ETSU fan Neil O'Donnell received? What would happen? I mean, what would happen if Ainge and Smith, who are bigger goats and bigger reasons for their losses than Buckner was and Neil O'Donnell was, here's what I think would happen. It would mean that the Vols fans, except for Ainge, if he gets a... Now that's harsh criticism, but it's justified. And if the perception is the Vols were actually better than the 11 in 2008, if they're perceived to be better than the number 1 team in the nation, it's just that bum Eric Ainge. Because that's what started the program in, and its demise. Similarly, if after that Wake Forest game, he gave everything he had, big whoop. That means he was probably fatigued. They should have put in Sam Oatman. I always wanted Oatman to play more than Smith. I always was like, anyway. But if Smith received more criticism for his selfish play in the 2003 NCAA tournament game, is he, well, wait a minute, I got to do the brainy thing, and I got to throw this out to Ben Rhoda or whoever for the 3. Maybe it ties the game up against Cincinnati. And then the Buccaneers can go to the Sweet 16, theoretically, just as they were picked to do by Sports Illustrated, if there's more criticism for the errors. Now, Leo DeRocher once famously said, nice guys finish last. But as disturbing as this may, Boston, Pittsburgh, I know, but Boston wins. Pittsburgh wins. They were called the City of Champions, both of them. Boston may win 3 sports titles. The Patriots and Steelers are tied for the most Super Bowls. And even though it was unfair, Buckner and Neil O'Donnell got a lot of heat. Unlike Eric Ainge and Tim Smith. Check out the demise of the Vols. No, really hit for a while when they played them, but there'd been no real, they wound up losing by 10. So as disturbing as this may sound, do nice fans who say, oh, it's okay, you try, than the critical fan. It's disturbing, but I got to tell you something. The ball club that draws while it loses, that's the ball club that has an excuse, therefore, for losing. They don't have the motivation in the front office. Hey, look, we can make more money. They'll come out and see a 4th place team. They'll come out and see a last place team. Why should we win? It's one of the reasons why the Cubs went 108 years without a world title. Tri-City Sports Now. I'm going to talk about last night's Stanley Cup playoffs right after this from Garland Tire.